Part 2 of our Hallicrafters S-38B restoration. It involves media blasting the case, and then we're going to go ahead and powder coat it. So here's one last look at the condition of the case before before we put it in the media blaster. So you can see it needs some work. So we're going to put it in our scat blast cabinet, and we'll remove the paint on it, and next time you see it, it should be clean. As you can see, the media blaster takes the paint off of it fairly easily. Okay, after KD0JCP spent about 45 minutes to an hour media blasting this, here's what we ended up with. Almost looks like it just came out of the factory press. Not quite, but pretty close. Had to clean it inside and out, obviously. So, cleaned up pretty good. There's a little bit of pitting in areas. We could probably try to use some body filler and fill that up, but we're not going to go to that extent. I think it'll look fine. There's a chance that if we put the powder coating on heavy enough, it might fill some of those up, or it may make it look even more pronounced. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So our next step is we're hanging it from a oven rack, and then we'll put it in the oven at 300 degrees for about 20 to 30 minutes and let it outgas. And then when we're shut the oven off, come back tomorrow, let it cool down, and then come back tomorrow and we'll do some prep work on it and apply the powder coat and bake it for about 20 to 25 minutes, and it should look good as new. All right, we've mounted hung the case from the oven rack, and we're going to go drop it into the oven here in just a second. There it is in the oven. It's nothing fancy, it's just something that we got from a thrift shop, and we'll leave it in there for 25-30 minutes and then let her cool down, like I said, and come back tomorrow. Here's what we got after we baked it for a while and outgassed it. So we'll let it cool down tonight, come back out tomorrow hopefully, prep it, and then apply the powder coat and bake it, and we should be done. Okay, here we are the next day. We'll pull it out of the oven and see what we got. Here's what it looks like after it's been outgassed. So next step is we'll do some prep on it, and then we'll go ahead and apply the powder coat, and then we will bake it. Here's our really crude rack that we have built for powder coating. Brad will go ahead and set it up, lay it in there, and like I said, we'll do some prep on it, and then we'll go ahead and apply the powder coat. We pre-treat our products that we're powder coating with this surface cleaner that we get from Summit Racing. Buy it in the gallon, it's cheap that way, and we go ahead and use one of these sprayers to spray it on and apply it. So in just a minute, Brad KD0JCP will be doing that. Brad's applying the surface cleaner. This evaporates really quickly, and it takes away all the grease and everything, because you can't have any grease on the surface that we're going to be powder coating, or it'll the finish won't come out right. And then he'll go ahead and wipe the excess off, and then we'll let it dry. Okay, KD0 JCP is going to do it again. He'll do it twice, then we'll let it dry. We're going to put some heat resistant tape on. There's 4 screws that hold the speakers in place. You can kind of see them down there. And we don't want the powder coat on that because then we won't be able to put a nut on to hold the speaker in place. So we'll put some heat resistant tape on that before we put on the powder coat. Here's what the tape looks like, nothing fancy. Put that on and then we'll apply the powder coat in just a minute. This is the powder coat we're going to be applying. It's made by Eastwood. And what we're going to apply is powdered black wrinkle. We got it in a 2-pound container. And basically, as you can see in there, it's just a fine powder that we put into the powder coating gun, and then obviously the piece that we're powder coating we electrostatically charge, and then we spray the powder on it, and then that sticks it to the piece, and then when we put it in the oven it flows and melts to it. We're using just a simple base Eastwood Company hot coat applicator. It's very important that everything be dry, so there's a dryer on there. Now what Brad will do here in a minute is he'll hook a ground up to one of the wires that's running down that we got hanging the case on with. He'll hook it to that, and then I don't remember if it positively or negatively charges it. I believe it negatively charges it. So he'll charge the unit while he's with a push button while he's spraying it, and then that should attach it to it. We'll kind of put it on light on the inside here, since in the factory it really wasn't sprayed completely, but we want to make sure we get enough coating that it doesn't start rusting again. Once he gets done with that, he'll probably move it up to this top shelf up here, so it's a little bit easier to get to the actual top side of the case. Okay, Brad has the clip on it and he's getting ready to go. We use a very low pressure on this. It's like 10 to 12 psi. Now he's applying the powder coat. Need to make sure we get it covered real well because there's no second coats on these. If we don't get it covered the first time, then we have to re-bead blast it and do the whole procedure over again. The other part of this is making sure you have adequate lighting so that you can look at it and make sure you got everything covered correctly. He's going to examine it with a flashlight also. I think we've got to be careful about those flashlights so they get hot enough. If the powder coat lands on them, it'll actually stick to the lenses. Which is what happened to that flashlight. You also got to be careful you don't touch the object with the gun while you're applying the powder coat, because it'll leave a mark in it. Hopefully I didn't jinx him. You notice Brad's using proper ventilation, or proper proper face mask. Really hard. Really, you gotta be really careful you get enough on the corners. He'll check it again and make sure that he's got everything covered adequately. Just a disclaimer, we're not professionals, so if you do this on your own, well, you're on your own. Every time he's spraying that, he's pushing that push button he's got in his hand to keep the item charged. That's what the finish looks like after it's been applied. Well, I think we've got Brad's approval, so there we are. We're done with applying the powder coat. Next step, we'll put it in the oven and we flow it for a little bit, and then we cook it for 20 to 30 minutes. Alright, here we are back at the oven. We preheated it to 450 degrees. We're opening it up for KD0JCP, and here's the big problem, making sure we get it in without touching anything. Alright, I think we were successful. So we'll put it in there. We let it flow for a little bit. How long we're going to go ahead and we're going to do it for 20 minutes. So we got our timer set. 20 minutes from now we should be able to take a peek and see what it looks like. I don't know if you can see it, but this is one of the reasons why when you do this you need to do it in a well ventilated area. That's the off-gassing from the process. Alright, we're going to tease you here just a minute. We're going to open it up and show you what it looks like in there. There's what she looks like. We're going to leave her in the oven, let it cool down. We'll come back later and take her out. Well, we have the S-38B case out of the oven after the powder coating. For the most part, it looks pretty good. We have a few things that we're not 100% happy with, but we're going to go ahead and live with them because removing this powder coat would be a big job, and cosmetically it's not that big of an issue. One of the issues that we had is right down here. We got a little bit of a bubble. We're pretty sure we know what that is. When we use that pre-treatment cleaner on it, we think that some of that soaked down into that gap and didn't dry out before we applied the powder coat. So next time, I think what we're going to do when we do one of these is we'll go ahead and put it back in the oven for 10 minutes or so to bake that out before we apply the powder coat. Most of the imperfections aren't all that noticeable. Now the other big thing we had is, for some reason, inside the case, the powder coat, I don't know if we applied it too heavy or whatever. We'll check with Eastwood and find out, but it kind of got really thick in there, bubbled up, but it's inside the case. And if you've ever seen a Hallicrafters case after they came out of the factory, it was mainly overspray in here, but that's good enough to protect it. We're gonna just go ahead and live with it and use it that way. But other than that, the front turned out pretty good. Finish is almost exactly like what we wanted. There's a little bit of an imperfection in here, but again, when you consider where we're coming from, we've decided to just go ahead and live with this next time we do one of these. I'm happy enough with it that we'll go ahead and attempt to do this again. We're just trying to do a little bit better job when you consider where this case came from in the opening episode. I think you have to agree with me that this is a vast improvement. So next, we'll finish up this episode. Next episode, we'll go ahead and reapply the decals from Radio Days. We'll show you how we're going to do that, and hopefully that turns out okay. We're going to try something a little bit different that we haven't done before. They've got some setting solution. We're going to attempt to use that. So that's all we have now for this episode. This is KB0ASQ, and I'm going to go ahead and sign out for KD0JCP also. Signing out. See you next time.